Welcome back to the TechXLR8 TV studio. I'm David McClelland, and I'm joined here by James Watson, who is Global Client Director at Imagination. James, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
So, let's start off with the obvious question. What do you do, and who do you do it for?
So I'm, as you say, Client Director at a creative agency called Imagination, and we are very active in the immersive tech sector. We've been doing this for actually about 25 years, the first VR project we did, which was quite a surprise to me. And we look at solutions that we can use the technology for our clients, and that's a global piece ranging from automotive through to retail, through to any other number of sectors.
Okay, so I'm going to do a little State of the Nation piece with you to start off with. Immersive Technologies, AR, VR, MR, XR, whatever you want to call them. With my consumer technology hat on, tracking that for the last 5 or 6 years, lots of people got very excited about technologies like Oculus Rift and HTC Vive and so on, but while they've come to market, the content kind of hasn't, and it feels as though it's been a little bit of a struggle, a little bit of a barrier. There aren't as many immersive reality headsets out there as I think we thought there maybe could be if we were thinking forward 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. The uptake of this has been a lot slower than was been expected. The install base isn't really where it's at a point where it's economical for content makers to go out and make a heap of content, which ultimately they can then sell. So it's kind of a vicious circle in that unless you have that install base, it's a real challenge for content creators to really go after this market and create that content. You also have an issue around distribution of that content. Where do people go to get their content? Yes, there are platforms out there, but it's quite fragmented, and depending on which device you're using, you're going to be directed to a different platform. So, there's a real fragmentation in the market. You'd hope that that will consolidate, but that could take some time, and consumers are notoriously impatient. Are they going to wait for that?
It strikes me that, 10, 11, 12 years ago, there was this perfect storm of YouTube being born as a platform and smartphones coming along with really decent cameras in there, and it democratized content creation, albeit for a 16:9 or 4:3 flat format. It's that if it is a barrier to entry, then that seems as though that's going to need to be broken now when it comes to creating VR content, 360 content. That needs to be a thing, easier to create if it's to break that vicious circle that you're talking about now.
And I think that will come. It's a question of how long. So what will happen is the devices will get cheaper, as with all technology. It's going to come down. There's already the £200 Oculus Go headset out. That's going to keep coming down, and the devices are going to get smarter. But that's probably talking 15 years ahead, where you'll have a very your glasses now may have an AR mode that you just tap a button, a VR mode where it gets closed off, and that ability to use these products is so much more simple. That's a barrier that's going to be broken down. But until we get to that, I think the price will help. If you've only got to pay, say in 3-4 years' time, if you've only got to pay £40 for an Oculus Go, that's less of a real purchase decision. You're going to try it, the kids will try it, and then you'll sort of start getting adoption. So it is a challenge. They need that install base.
That's in consumer land.
Yeah.
When we move over to industrial land, I've been to various virtual reality shows and shows like this where there's a virtual reality presence for years now, and it seems that in industry, augmented reality is absolutely nothing new. There are people who are using headgear, albeit, far more techie looking headgear, and they've been using that for years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, talking on the panel today with Richard from Lockheed Martin, he said he's seen the cycle come and go. He's seen it pick up, drop down, pick back up. I mean, they've been doing it, as you say, for years and years, and looking at how they industrialize it, use it in their organization. And there, of course, are less barriers there. There are still barriers. They're different barriers. But it's less about sort of hardware. It's more about ways of operating as a business, getting the CEO to understand why they should spend this money on a piece of software or a piece of hardware to come in. So, they've been in the market a long time. They have different challenges as to how they approach that.
So, obviously we're here at TechXLR8, part of London Tech Week. 8 shows under one roof here at the XL Centre, celebrating AI, obviously VR, AR, 5G as well. How do you see these technologies mixing together, fusing together, particularly when it comes to augmented, virtual, mixed, immersive realities, to create the next generation of these immersive experiences?
Well, I think, the challenge at the moment is things move so fast. It's understanding what is that next sort of step. I heard someone describe the developments within this space a bit like dog ears. for each 1 year, you're actually getting almost like 7 years worth of developments in it. And I think they will all come together in some shape or form. 5G is really important. It'll mean you can customize those experiences much easier straight from the cloud, so someone can literally be navigating around, say, retail, and you can change that shop instantly. You can put a product prioritize based on where they're looking. That's important. And then AI, bringing AI into there, which we go through all the buzzwords, all the acronyms. That will also come into it as well, and understand behavior, adapt experiences based on that understanding. You know, so I mean, 5G is a bit more tangible as to how that will affect it. 2-3 years, you'll have more immersive, more customizable events. They will all come together. I think it's also quite useful to think of them slightly separately and then think of them as how they come together as layers, because it can get a little daunting, I think, if you try to future gaze too much and wonder how all these incredibly, you know, diverse, quickly evolving technologies come together. But, you know, there will be kind of an aligning of them. You know, how quickly that happens, I think we'll have to see.
James, we're almost out of time. Before we go, you've had a walk around the floor here. Anything in particular that's caught your eye? Anything that's got you a little bit excited? Yeah, there are some very interesting headsets over there, and some that are using electrical stimulation that basically can. Yeah, it's a little. What? Yeah, we're not talking mass market, but basically it gives you the sensation of movement. So by giving you a little stimulus behind the ear, it is actually tilting the body, so you find yourself naturally going left or right. As though you're going through, you know, for example, in this instance, it was a car. So, you know, the haptic piece is very interesting, and once you overlay that with current experiences, you know, that's when you're really fully immersed, and that's sort of, you know, exciting and scary. Replicating even more of our senses, because touch has been that barrier at the moment. You know, vision, we've pretty much got that. Audio, we're certainly getting there, but it's being able to get the sensation of touch in a virtual environment that so far has been a little bit clunky. Well, the Void have done that brilliantly. I don't know if you had a chance to look at any of they did a big Star Wars experience at Westfield, and that's mapping virtual onto physical. So you're in a virtual world, but you go to touch something and there is actually something there, so you feel it. So that's getting around that haptic piece, and it's incredible. You know, it's perfectly mapped so that you literally are opening doors, you're shooting each other in a sort of friendly way. So those sorts of things are ways of getting around it. Listen, fascinating to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time, and have a great rest of week here at the show. Thanks for having me. Cheers.